Hi everybody, it is Tough Love Tuesday. Your sickness is not acceptable. Hi, I'm Dr. Lisa Ann Homick from Homick Advanced Chiropractic. And why do we need to have a day set aside for tough love? Well, some of you need to hear the full truth. Some people need a kick in the pants. And I can't always catch people's attention when I'm motivational, inspirational, always optimistic and looking on the bright side of things. And some people just put things on the back burner and that's the way they roll. I don't want you to roll. Your sickness is not acceptable. And I want to talk about what we've learned from this recent illness crisis. I don't know what else to call it. There are a ton of sick people and we don't really have a grasp on it. I honestly am not convinced that it's totally contagious. So throw the stones at me and I'm dissing science, but not all the science is reputable. Not all the science can be trusted, and that's the position I'm coming from. And I want you to focus on what you can do to really help yourself, because we're looking at chronic illness. The sickest people, regardless of how it started, the sickest people are obese, and they have diabetes, they're on a slew of medications, especially that high blood pressure medication, and they have severe autoimmune problems. These are things that have been creeping up in society for decades. And I said it before, the chickens have come home to roost, and all of a sudden we're surprised. Oh my gosh, we are sick. There are people so sick, they are mystified because they're doing everything they're supposed to be doing. They're following all their doctor's instructions, but yet we are last place in the bottom. We are bottom in health when you look at all the other first world countries. Why is that? And we spend the most on healthcare, and we're still last place. So it's not the technology, it's not the money. There's something in our philosophy, there's something in our belief system, and there's something in the way we look at the functioning of our country. And that's something that I think it touches an emotional button, but that's important. We need to face up to it. But I want to talk about what some doctors are saying about this current illness crisis, whether it's a virus or a contagiousness or whatever. I have a newsletter from a doctor. I subscribe to it. So I'm just going to share a brief sentence here about this illness. Oh, I lost my place. Oh, I'm in the wrong issue. I've got to look at the July issue. We're finding out that if you have a lot of ACE2 receptors, you are at risk of suffering from this illness crisis. And normally, healthy people have a limited number of these ACE2 receptors. So if you've got a low number of ACE2 receptors, you're okay. You're not at risk. Things aren't going to go haywire in your immune system. And they're talking about the immune system is just going berserk, nutso. It's reacting in an over-exaggerated way, and then the body can't catch up. There's a problem in the immune system. So I think we need to look within and stop looking without, although there's a point where we do have to look at what we're putting in our bodies. And it's not just what we accidentally touch at a grocery store counter. If you are on any medications or have any symptoms that include obesity, insomnia, depression, irritable bowel, you already have too many ACE2 receptors. And the research is showing if you're on a high blood pressure medication, you have quadruple the chance of becoming sickened by this with this illness crisis. And interestingly, vitamin D reduces this ACE2 receptor problem. So, we make too many ACE2 receptors for some reason, and it's usually spurred on by medication. So I'm going to hypothesize that the medication is very toxic, and it also tricks the body, and the body's trying to override what the medicine is doing. You can't fool Mother Nature. If you take an acid blocker, your body's going to make more acid. Isn't that funny? Because it knows. You can't fool Mother Nature. So we're understanding about these ACE2 receptors. We're understanding that if you're already sick, you're going to have problems. And that's why I say your sickness is not acceptable. What is currently making you sick, whatever's been building up for these last decades, 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, the things in your lifestyle are the problem. And that's why I want to mention this on Tough Love Tuesday. Let's also talk about the mitochondrial damage. Mitochondria, they're the energy factories of your cells. You want energy, you need mitochondria. There are a lot of things that close them down, shut them down, kill them. Lack of sleep, certain diet, not enough fasting, medications. Oh, there it is again. Those medications, they specifically kill your mitochondria. I have a study that it's in my office, and the researchers had trouble getting it published. Why? Because no one wants to hear bad results from science. These authors couldn't get published. It took them a long time. They went from journal to journal to journal, but they have information showing that certain medications kill your mitochondria. There's a double-edged sword. You're not getting well and you're wondering why. We not only do we have to worry about side effects, but now we have to pay attention to the specific side effect of mitochondria damage. And this goes with heart medications, psych meds, diabetes meds, and cancer meds. There's some other ones, but there's especially these categories of chronic diseases that are knocking out the mitochondria. And when you don't have that working well, we know there's DNA damage, there's problems with the DNA health. And that we can go back decades and decades and decades. The body reaches that breaking point. So now they're saying the planet has reached a breaking point. What is it that we have been overlooking and missing all this time? What's the other thing with this illness crisis? Blood clots. Now that's interesting. That's not a typical reaction to an acute sickness like a flu or a pneumonia. So that's concerning. So now, if you think about it, there's a poisoning going on. And there's a whole lot of toxic stuff in our food, in our air, in our water, in our soil that's affecting us. We have a toxic lifestyle. I always say you have to make peace with the modern world because the modern world is killing us. For some, it's happening slowly. For some, it's happening quickly. So that's not a gamble I want to take. We have to figure out how to change our toxic lifestyle to something that is going to be more beneficial in our life. And there's a lot of toxins nobody's questioning. It's getting pushed under the rug. So while we're looking at this emergency illness crisis, we're overlooking the toxins that set us up for this situation. And I find that to be a problem. In fact, now that people go to the hospital, they're not even looking for other diagnoses of other conditions, of other bacterial sicknesses, and we're only testing for that one illness, and we're forgetting to do a proper history and a proper examination and a proper testing protocol. We're just jumping straight to this one illness crisis and overlooking the other things that need to be taken into consideration to keep us well. I don't like this overemphasis. It's causing problems. I think it's going to be worse. So when we talk about the toxins in our lifestyle, let's substitute the word gasoline, because everybody knows gasoline is terrible. You're not going to drink it. It's very caustic. It's harmful. So if we talked like gasoline was everywhere, we'd be upset and we'd be trying to get ourselves healed. So Think of gasoline when I talk about toxins, because what are these toxins? They're food preservatives. They're chemicals in the food. There's a lot of things that end up in our water supply. Our drugs end up in the water supply. And drugs I don't want to be taking. Somebody else may have been taking it. Now I'm drinking the water. There's a lot of toxins in the soil. We're having a big buildup of toxins, and the planet is now saying enough. Enough is enough. And now I want to mention the vitamin D disruption. There are toxins that interfere with your vitamin D functioning, and I'm going to get all my ducks in a row and present that in the future. But there is something that's very harmful to our own vitamin D manufacturing. So we need to deal with that, because these are the important parts of how our body defends itself. We're ruining our defenses. When our defenses are gone, it's history, lights out. What causes death? It's when your tissue resilience can no longer handle it. When you have connective tissue that can no longer take in nerve energy from your nervous system and do something with it, that's bad news. When your body can no longer take in nutrition and do something with it, that's a problem. And when your body can no longer detox and get rid of these toxins, that is a problem. That's what causes death. That's the end point of your connective tissue resilience. If we look at everything in terms of that, I think we would be a lot nicer to ourselves. So we have our heads in the sand right now. I believe we're putting the emphasis on the wrong areas of what it takes to stay well. So I don't want to maintain your mess. I want to help you clear your stress so you can be your best. And that's the point of this Tough Love Tuesday. If you don't realize what's been going on low key behind the scenes, that's actually worse than this illness crisis that just popped up out of the blue this past winter. I really think we are putting things out of proportion, and we've got to get it right, or there's going to be a problem. So here's what I offer to you. The BFA protocol, Brain First Always, because the brain makes the body so you can make your life. No matter what's happening in your body, you need to have your brain working. It's the master system. We start at the top. What's good for the brain is good for everything else. Let's just do it. Start at the top. You've got to move your brain, feed your brain, talk to your brain. And I teach you how to do that. You have the tools already. You just haven't learned how to be proficient with those tools. I remember some time ago I had to work on plumbing, and there was this funky, weird looking wrench, and it just sat in the toolbox, taking up space. In a way, I was oblivious to it because I didn't know what to do with it, but figured out how. I can't remember if somebody else showed me or I watched it on YouTube, but once I knew how that tool worked, it opened up my world. Boy, did things get easy fixing that plumbing. So get the tools. You already have them. Don't get them, you have them. Use them. Learn how to use them properly. And I encourage you to look for the next Tough Love Tuesday episode. But in the meantime, check out the blog, check out the other videos. They are still pertinent, even if they're a year old, because it's all about the brain, and the brain comes first. I need you to be that positive ripple effect in your community. You cannot do that with an impaired brain. Thanks for watching.